Our next guest is someone who has helped us guide our way through the Bay Area for the Bay Area traffic, and it's been pretty crazy this week. So he's been helping us today, this week, but for 2 decades he's been helping us. So please welcome Mike Inouye, the chief traffic anchor at NBC News, as he shares his personal health story.
Now, forgive me, I'm using equipment I'm not used to. I'm not used to having a real screen behind me. It's typically a green screen. And I'm not used to having a hand controller that I control everything. I just have a tiny part of my show. My name is Mike Inouye. I'm your traffic anchor at NBC Bay Area on NBC's Today in the Bay. Oh, you don't need to pause. That was just for vanity. So is this picture that I'm going to show you, folks. If I could show you the slideshow coming up, that's the picture that we have for my station's PR. And the slideshow will go on to show you, that's an older picture which I chose. That was before I had any aging going on a few years ago. But that's still the one that they use on the website. Today in the Bay is our website, weekdays from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I point that out because the hours are pretty important. They're integral to part of my lifestyle. I'm glad Josh pointed out the 3 pillars that we're talking about because I think, hopefully, that the story I'm telling you today encompasses all 3 of those aspects and we'll get through them. Now, I want to welcome you, first of all, to Heart Forum 2026. This is the first step on your heart health roadmap. Seems pretty transparent, right? Getting the traffic guy to talk about the theme of roadmap. Yeah, You'll be fascinated to know that that was chosen before I became involved in this. I don't know if that was something that they caused to come into being by talking about the roadmap and then me being a part of this program. We'll talk about why that could be a little bit of a concern coming up. My day starts typically with the alarm going off at 2:30. My wife will tell you sometimes I get up the first alarm, sometimes it takes a few. But by 4 a.m. I'm supposed to be in the office. If my bosses ask me, that's the time you tell them that I got there. I spend my mornings helping you navigate your way to work. I have to get there before you leave for work so I can warn you about what's along the way. So I can tell you about where there's problems, where there's closures, reroutes like for the Super Bowl in San Francisco and in Santa Clara, your Bay Area locals. You know the difference. They're an hour apart for those who weren't prepared when they came to town. Unpleasant surprise. Folks, I talk about things that are going on the daily work schedule. And this clip, actually, that I'm going to show you is from June of this year. We're talking about traffic flowing across the Richmond-Santa Fe Bridge and going across and getting slower. You know what? In this clip, I'm 56 years old. I'm showing up for my job, for my family, for my community, and for my personal health. Not so much. You see, at that time, I hadn't had a checkup, a regular checkup, something non-urgent, in over a decade. I kept putting things off. My personal maintenance, my regular checks, they were more regular for my car than they were for my body. So I needed something that was really urgent to cause me to go in. In my world, that's the check engine light, and that's not good news. Well, I did have some warning signs along the way. We'll talk about those. But really, the one that pointed things out, I got to give credit to my really my favorite person in the world, and the one who is the biggest help. That's right, our dog. Our dog and my wife, Tracy. Tracy's here. You can give her a round of applause. It was the 2 of them that helped me out, folks. You see, as my personal maintenance was off to work, I was off the night before to give our dog a walk. About 8:30 the night before, I gave the dog a walk. It was a Sunday night before that Monday newscast. He's a small dog, as you can tell. His legs are short, he doesn't walk far, and he doesn't walk fast. So it was a non-taxing walk. I say that it was very low-key because as I was taking that short walk, I started to get a pain in my shoulder blade. It's enough to give me pause along the way. When I got back home, I thought it would wear off by then, but it was still hurting. I asked my wife to sort of lean in with her elbow and give me a help with a knot in my shoulder. I told her it was probably because of my bad sleep hygiene, horrible sleep hygiene. I would nap whenever I could, in places wherever I could. Sometimes it was in a 90-degree straight-back wooden dining room chair with my head down at 45 degrees. I wake up with a horrible crick in my neck, and I thought that's what it was. She pushed down on my shoulder, and I said, "Ow!" And I said a few words that we won't say here. But she said I should go to urgent care. She was concerned. I waved her off. I said, "It's too late to call in for a sub tomorrow. I'll go to work. I'll be okay." I'll shake it off, right? Rub it a little bit. Well, she made me promise that I would go to urgent care after my shift, because my shift is over at noon, plenty of time during the day to take care of everything. And so that was my warning sign. That was highlighted by my wife and our dog. Now, I went to urgent care after my shift, like I told her. I wasn't going to, actually. I'll be honest with you, hon. I went to work, and by the end of the shift, everything was fine. I was just standard, kept going. I said, I'll just go home. And I remember I had promised her. So I changed to my jeans and my hoodie, which is my standard apparel after work. And I went to urgent care over at PANF. And they did a quick check, checked everything. Doctors calmly, quietly told me, everything looks pretty good. There's just one check we'd like to follow up on. One more thing. But, if we do need to follow up on this, we can't really do what we need to do here at urgent care. So I'd like you to follow up over where they have more equipment, more resources. El Camino Hospital is just down the road. Could I ask you to go down there? And I said, oh, yeah, sure, doc, whatever. Whatever the doctors want, I'll do. They're the experts. They went to school. So I'm prepared to leave the office, and he goes, oh, how did you get here? I drove. Silicon Valley, right? Everybody drives. And then he says, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to call an ambulance for you. Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what the reporter should have done. Oh. But the patient said, oh. And I said, okay, can I get my dad to take me? He's just down the street. I said, all right. Reluctantly, after going back and forth, the doctor let my dad drive me over to El Camino Emergency, where I checked in. Got a round of tests, and at that time, the doctor in the emergency room brought out some test results, and he said, hey, we're looking at everything, and it seems just fine. And I was happy to hear that. Meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm wondering, why is he bringing out an EKG? He says, we want to follow up with one more test. Same explanation. It's going to take a few more hours till we can run the test again, but the first results just showed us the number, and we're watching. If the number goes down, you just go home. If the number goes up, we'll have to follow up. So we had a few iterations of that, and my dad, who brought me over, was very patient. But I'll tell you what, we had a detour in place. I wasn't going home. Those numbers kept going up, and as we kept checking, they kept just assuring me that everything would be all right. And they kept checking, are you sure you feel okay? Is everything all right? How are you feeling? Any pressure? Nope, none of that. So imminently, I was admitted to a room upstairs. Road work ahead, folks. That was the sign. Now, what was great was I was upstairs now by the evening time, and so I didn't have to worry about dinner because my family said, we'll take care of it. I didn't have to worry about getting to work the next day because I told them I probably wasn't going to be in for the next day. And so they gave me a nice room, they gave me a blanket, they gave me some cool technology, and some socks with grippies on them. That was good stuff. Yeah, it was really nice. They also gave me a new app that I could download. It was the El Camino Health app. And it would show me what was going on, update me some of the test results that I hadn't been asking about. I'd just been blindly, head down, going along the tests. Well, when I loaded up the app and had talked to them about what we needed to do, they said, we need to get a check. And have you heard of angiography? That's when they go in your artery, and they do a scope, and they check to see if there's any blockage. I knew about that because family members had that. Friends had that, and it was a pretty simple procedure. I said, yeah, no problem. That's great. And so I looked on the app, and sure enough, the word that I had been scared of asking was on there. It says, your hospital stay, you're here for NSTEMI, non-ST elevated myocardial infarction. And now the boy in me laughs when I hear infarction because it sounds like something that makes you laugh. But really, that's a heart attack. A mild heart attack, be it, but it was. That was my diagnosis. So we knew there was an issue. I was scheduled for the angiography on Wednesday, admitted Monday, scheduled for the first part on Wednesday. And so we went in. By Wednesday, I had the angiography. They pulled me out saying there was a lot of blockage, significant blockage, so far that we had to go in, and the options were data. There was the angiography with stents, or given the young age that I was and the amount of work that was to be done, and how receptive the body was to a bypass with its own arteries, Dr. Oka, my cardiovascular surgeon, gave me the data, and we decided on going for the bypass surgery. He scheduled it for Friday, which was fine. I just had to wait Thursday. And over the course of Thursday into Friday, I realized that Friday that week, was on the 13th. Tried to ignore that sign. We'll take most of the signs, but only the ones that help us, right? So all I had to do was wait and think and just do whatever they told me. They fed me when I needed to be fed. They gave me the meds I needed to get. And we went on. Friday comes around, and that's actually the easy part. The worrying part was the hard part. The easy part was taking a nap and waking up when everything was, well, I was out of the surgery. I woke up out of surgery, and then people filled me in on what had happened during that time. Apparently, when I went under, that was fine. Surgery went well, and I was in the recovery area. But in between that point, when I was coming out of anesthesia, I tried to help. I started to extubate. For those of you who know what intubation is, that's when the tubes go in. Extubation is when they come back out. You're not supposed to do that by yourself, apparently. So I was trying to just be helpful, but they didn't want that. So I let them continue their jobs. What I did was go for a few more days of recovery through the Camino Health program, and it was a great opportunity to learn what was going on. I got my daughter to come down. We had just entered summer vacation. She wants to be an emergency room nurse. She was going to camp to learn to be a nurse, or at least some of the skills. So she got to come back from camp and to try things out on me in the hospital. How happy was she? Oh my goodness. We also got a ride. They took care of everything I needed. They escorted me to the front and brought me to the car where my wife picked me up. It was great on my road out of there. And then I headed home, where all I had to do was rest and get pampered. So that was pretty much living the best life, right? Had a few weeks off of work. My boss did point out that I had had open heart surgery, but we didn't know what the road ahead was going to have for me. I even got some souvenirs, folks. I got a nice zipper, as I say, to remind myself of the work, and I got a nice stuffed heart signed by Christy and the other team members who had helped hold me down while I was trying to pull the tubes out of me. So I'm ever grateful for them. But joking aside, I'll be real. The recovery, although I just had to have my body heal, was mostly just that, healing the bone, healing the tissue. It was a lot harder than that. My friend who had undergone heart surgery earlier in the year, or 2 years ago, had told me, this is going to be a physically and mentally challenging exhibition for you. Physical because you have the healing to do, but mentally because there are going to be tricks your mind plays, and you're going to be overthinking things. He says, just focus on what you need to do, and you'll get through it. So I did some weeks of trying to figure out what to eat. I had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Figuring out what I could do, we had nurses and physical therapists coming to visit me, thank goodness, to check on my wellness every few days. They told me to do 10 leg lifts, some 10 knee bends, maybe take walks around the block. My dad did that with me. And I knew what I shouldn't eat for diabetes, but I didn't know what I should eat. So it started to kind of flounder after a few weeks and get antsy. But my reroute was, I got a call from friends you'll meet today. Terry was the name of one of the guys. He did my intake, and he said, we're ready to have you at the cardio rehab. We'll have you come in, get oriented, and you'll be having a regimen. The guy right here with my picture, his name is Terrence. Terry and Terrence both work at the same place. It's like my station where 5 mics work in the same department. They helped me out by getting me oriented on my cardio rehab. So on my first day to show up not far from here, just over at the cardiopulmonary rehab clinic on campus, I walked in, my wife drove me, and we opened the door. I held the door open for two people who were leaving the class. They were both older and shorter than me, and they were both wheeling those little oxygen tanks hooked up to their noses. I smiled at them because I was happy to see them, but I was also a little self-satisfied thinking, oxygen tanks, this is going to be cake. Yeah. It wasn't cake. They were there for pulmonary rehab, which was a slightly different set of requirements and needs. I was there, Gesundheit. You weren't there, though. You're doing well. We were here for the cardiology rehab, and it was a little bit more extensive. We had 3 days a week, a couple hours a day, physical. We had stretching. We had balance. We have stretching. We have weights once a week. We also have lifestyle classes. Those were all very important for me. The team there, extremely important, including Terry, Terrence, Sherry, who you're going to meet later. She's going to be bringing some great recipes for you, and Julie, who's right there in the back. She's dressed fancier than she ever dressed over at the clinic. She's in charge of the whole team, and I do have to thank them for all the work they did, because they helped fix me, to strengthen my body. They help fix my mindset as well, to strengthen that with the support they get. I was able to push myself when I was worried because they had me monitored. They had me hooked up. The heart rate, everything was reviewed after we had done all of that work. So they turned my eye rolls when I used to talk about dietitians and health regimen to eye-opening experiences, letting me see that it wasn't what I thought, it's what it could be. Well, after several weeks of that, I was ready to go back to work to continue the work at the rehab clinic while I was starting to work back over at the station. This is from my first day back, where we're looking over at Dr. Scott, who's sitting with me on the set. We interviewed him to talk about my experience. You see, I had been gone, and I had posted on social media that I would be gone for a few months, getting some medical needs taken care of. And so my boss thought it was appropriate, and, well, she welcomed the fact that we brought my story to the screen to explain to people what I had gone through and that I was back and that we were in the process of bringing me back slowly and gratefully. So with that said, we had my mornings that were different. Instead of getting up, bare minimum time to get to the work, rolling out of bed, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, I would now wake up a little bit earlier, get some blueberries, some nuts, some cottage cheese, and sugar-free yogurt. We get to the office, I'd do my job, I'd have my meds after my first morning shows, accompanied with a protein bar, instead of going out for fast food and catching a nap in the car in the parking lot. Things are different now. Things are working differently for the family as well. But this is me. This is not me. That's Dr. Scott. But that was me at 57, where I was finally showing up for my health as well. And my family's showing up for me as well. You see, it's very important that we adapt my schedule, but we adapt also the eating habits, what's going on. I have to eat differently with type 2 diabetes and also for heart healthiness, which we had already adapted for the needs of our general needs for our family. So my whole family takes part in this. My kids are very tolerant. Earlier this week, I don't know if Sherry's in this room. Sherry, we had lentils and tofu as two main components for our dinner. It might not sound exciting to you, but it was exciting to me because it was tasty and the kids ate it too. So there's an opportunity out there. Someone else who's also part of our family who did some adapting, my younger brother, right? He comes after me in the timeline, and, well, apparently he comes after me in this story as well. This is my brother, and next to him is Terrence, who you saw in the earlier picture with me. Next to them both is Terry in the vest. Those are two guys over at the rehab clinic, but this picture was taken a couple weeks ago. My brother, in the wake of my roadmap change and my detour, he went immediately to his doctor and said, "Doc, we know we've been talking about my history, the heredity that Dan talked about, right? The genetic history. We know about the history of my brother who just had heart surgery. I want to get a heart scan, which is new technology." And they gave him a heart scan. He looked at the scan results, and with his doctor, they worked out the fact that he should see a cardiologist, who then advised, "We can get you angiography too." So my brother went in during the winter holidays, and he had stents put in, much less invasive. This guy gets to go to the hospital in the morning. He gets home by that evening. So he's taking the easy road, I'd say. No, he's following in the footsteps, and he's taking the cues that were left for him, the breadcrumbs. My brother has always been better at looking at the evidence and at the data. In fact, Ryan, could you come up here with us? So this is my little brother, Ryan. People say we look much more similar now that I'm 30 pounds lighter. That was part of what had gone on. So Ryan's here. He's the younger, thinner, and better prevented version of myself, still going through the same program. And Ryan and I were both aware of risks. Ryan was acting on those preparations. I didn't act so well on them, but we did look at those warning signs.
Maybe not soon enough.
Maybe not soon enough. He didn't have any events, though. And that's the big cue, is the fact that Ryan has had no significant events when he went through his surgery. I had not had any significant events, so there was no heart damage. That's what Dr. Oka told me. It's one of the key factors that I had missed that my wife caught when we were having the group counsel. He said, "Your heart, the muscle is in good shape. You haven't suffered any damage from this heart attack. We think you'd be a good candidate for the bypass." And that's what went into our discussion as well. But we knew we had this in our history, my brother and I, because that's our dad. Our dad had gone through a procedure as well In fact, earlier, I think it was a year ago, Dad, was it a year ago that we brought you to El Camino to do the follow-up visit? He'd had a procedure by a doctor that Josh knew, Dr. Mitchell, who's famous in the area, in the industry, because he had been a pioneer in this field as well. Dad, could you join us up here, please, as well? This is Mel. So my dad escorted me on walks around the neighborhood, knowing full well what it took to recover from bypass, because 30 years ago, he did a multiple bypass surgery as well. He had to recover as well. And so earlier this year, which we mentioned, I brought him in to get his angiography, and they said he's clean as a whistle, just like it was 30 years ago. So give him a round of applause, please. So our point being, and the point of this, I think, this talk and this forum today, is to know your signs, know where you are as a reference point, and that can help you determine where you're going and what actions you might need to take to change your path if you see those options and those forks in the road ahead. So I got to bring it back to my job, right? It's always about the job in Silicon Valley, and my job is the traffic guy. Now, I am just the traffic guy here, folks. I have to tell you, though, that your journey ahead is not something that I can tell you specifically, just like your commute. I don't know where you're going specifically. I can just tell you that you need to follow that roadmap ahead. As you're looking at the signs, please be aware of those signs. Don't ignore the little muscle tightness or the twinge that you have or the shortness of breath. These can all be things that you need to know about, that you should take into account and that you take to your professional along the way. I didn't do a lot of those things, but I did learn from them and how things can be different. Oops, I went too far. I always go too far. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad you're here. You're taking the first step. The big step is by making yourself aware, by taking action for yourselves and by yourselves, but you're not alone. Talk to the people who are here and use those resources who are here. Go to the experts. Because just like in the morning when I show you what's along your way and where you could encounter problems and what you can get around, I feel that I'm the traffic expert in the morning. But Josh's team here, they're the experts. They'll show you the right way, and they'll help you plan your roadmap ahead to avoid any problems. Thank you very much, folks.
Just a little something for the recent patients.
Yeah.
I think I got to get you one.
No, Josh. Here we go, Dan.
We're in the same house.
Wow.
Thank you.
What an inspiring story,
Thank
guys.
you.
Really.
That's so nice. You guys gave us 2 pounds of bacon. That is so
no.
great. Thank you so much.
No.
I can't imagine. That is awesome.
What an amazing
Thank
story.
you very much.
Oh, man. I just wanted to say, when I met Mike for the first time at the rehab center, I asked him if he would participate, and I told him, hey, just yesterday we came up with the theme, the roadmap to heart health. He said, Josh, I do the traffic. And I'm like, that's perfect. I'm like, this was meant to be.
He acted surprised.
Yeah, I was kind of, yeah. No, I knew you did the traffic. Yeah, but anyway,
Thanks,
thank you
Josh.
so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Okay.